Hello, my amazing students, and welcome back to Daily English. Today's lesson is going to transform the way you approach learning English. We're going to tackle one of the biggest challenges that English learners face worldwide: how to stop translating everything in your head and start thinking directly in English. If you've ever felt frustrated because you have to mentally translate every sentence before speaking, or if you've noticed that your responses come out slowly and awkwardly, then this lesson is specifically designed for you. By the end of today's session, you'll have 10 powerful strategies that will help you break free from the translation habit and begin thinking naturally in English. These aren't just theoretical concepts, these are proven techniques that have helped thousands of learners achieve fluency. So let's dive right in and start this exciting journey together. Strategy 1. Create an English environment around you. The first and perhaps most important strategy is to immerse yourself completely in English. What does this mean exactly? It means you need to surround yourself with English in as many ways as possible throughout your day. This includes watching films and television series in English, listening to English music and podcasts, reading English books and articles, and consuming English content on social media. The logic behind this approach is simple but powerful. The more you expose your brain to English, the more naturally it will start processing the language. Your brain is incredibly adaptive. When it encounters English constantly, it begins to recognize patterns, understand context, and eventually starts thinking in English without conscious effort. Let me share an inspiring story with you. During my time teaching English in South Korea, I worked with hundreds of students from diverse backgrounds. But there was one particular student whose English proficiency absolutely amazed me. When he first walked into my classroom and began speaking, I honestly questioned why he was even in my intermediate class. His pronunciation was flawless. His sentence structure was natural and sophisticated, and the way he expressed complex ideas was simply remarkable. Naturally curious, I asked him about his background. Have you lived in an English-speaking country? Did you study abroad in America or Britain? I expected him to tell me about years spent overseas. Instead, he smiled and said no, he had never left South Korea. He had achieved this incredible level of English proficiency entirely through self-study in his home country. When I asked him to reveal his secret, his answer was beautifully simple: immersion. He deliberately created an English-speaking environment in his daily life. He watched English movies without subtitles, consumed hours of English YouTube content, listened to English podcasts during his commute, and read English novels before bed. He essentially tricked his brain into believing he was living in an English-speaking country, even though he was in Seoul. This story demonstrates an important truth. You don't need to live abroad to become fluent in English. You don't need expensive international trips or foreign university degrees. What you need is commitment to surrounding yourself with English every single day. Whether you live in a small village or a major city, whether there are English speakers around you or not, you can create your own immersive English environment right where you are.
Strategy 2. Practice speaking aloud regularly. The second strategy might feel a bit unusual at first, but it's incredibly effective. Speak English out loud to yourself. Yes, you read that correctly. Even when you're alone, practice speaking English aloud as much as possible. Why is this so important? When you speak out loud, you're doing several things simultaneously. First, you're practicing pronunciation and intonation. Second, you're forcing your brain to organize thoughts in English before expressing them. Third, you're building confidence in your speaking abilities. And fourth, you're creating muscle memory in your mouth and throat for English sounds. Here's how to implement this strategy effectively. Start by describing your immediate environment. Look around the room you're in right now and describe what you see. I'm sitting in my bedroom. There's a blue curtain hanging by the window. Sunlight is streaming through the glass. My desk is cluttered with books and papers. Simple descriptions like these help your brain practice forming English sentences naturally. You can also narrate your activities as you do them. While cooking, describe each step. I'm chopping the onions now. I need to heat the oil in the pan. The garlic is starting to turn golden brown. While getting ready in the morning, talk yourself through the process. I'm brushing my teeth. Now I'm combing my hair. I need to choose what clothes to wear today. Now, I understand you might feel self-conscious about this, especially if you live with family members or roommates. They might give you some strange looks at first. If possible, practice this technique when you're alone or in a private space. But here's something important. Speak with confidence and conviction. Don't mumble or whisper. Speak as if you're having a real conversation with someone. Stand tall, project your voice, and believe in yourself. This confidence isn't just about volume, it's about mindset. When you believe in your ability to learn and improve, your entire learning process accelerates. Self-doubt creates mental barriers that slow down progress. Self-confidence opens pathways in your brain that make learning easier and more natural.
Strategy 3. Connect words to images instead of translations. Here's our third powerful strategy. Use visual associations instead of relying on mental translations. When you learn a new English word, instead of immediately translating it to your native language, try to connect that word directly to an image or concept. Let me explain why this works so well. When you translate, you're creating a two-step process in your brain.
English word to your language to meaning. This creates a delay and keeps you dependent on your native language. But when you connect English words directly to images and concepts, you create a one-step process. English word to meaning. This is exactly how native speakers think. For example, when you see the word butterfly, don't think of the word in your language first. Instead, picture a beautiful butterfly with colorful wings flying through a garden. When you learn the word anxious, don't translate it. Instead, visualize the feeling of nervousness, perhaps remembering a time when you felt worried about something important. You can enhance this strategy by creating visual flashcards. These can be physical cards or digital ones using apps on your phone. On one side, write the English word. On the other, place an image that represents that word. Review these cards regularly, and you'll find that the English words start connecting directly to their meanings without any translation step in between. I used this technique extensively when teaching English to military personnel in Korea. These students needed to learn English quickly for their work, and visual learning proved incredibly effective. I would display images on a screen and ask each student to describe what they saw using English vocabulary. The results were remarkable because images activate different neural pathways in the brain compared to text alone. Images make learning more engaging and memorable. They tap into your brain's natural ability to remember visual information more easily than abstract words. When you associate English words with vivid mental pictures, you're creating stronger memory connections that will last much longer than simple translation-based learning.
Strategy 4. Think in English during daily activities. Our fourth strategy is to practice internal English narration throughout your day. Whenever you're performing routine tasks, whether you're cooking breakfast, commuting to work, exercising, or doing household chores, try to describe these activities to yourself in English. This technique works because it integrates English practice into your natural daily rhythm. You're not setting aside special study time. Instead, you're transforming ordinary moments into learning opportunities. This consistent, repeated practice helps your brain establish English as a default thinking language rather than something you only use during formal study sessions. Here's how to apply this practically. When you're making coffee in the morning, think, I'm filling the kettle with water. I'm waiting for the water to boil. Now I'm pouring the hot water over the coffee grounds. The aroma smells wonderful. When you're driving or taking public transportation, observe and narrate. The traffic is heavy today. That car is turning right. We're approaching a red light. I need to slow down. I personally used this exact technique when I was learning Korean during my time in South Korea. Whenever I took a taxi, I would mentally narrate the journey in Korean. The driver is about to turn left.
Now we're going straight. We're stopping at this traffic light. We're accelerating again. This constant practice, even just in my mind, dramatically improved my ability to think in Korean naturally. The beauty of this strategy is that it requires no special materials, no study time, and no practice partner. You can do it anywhere, anytime, completely privately. Over time, you'll notice that English sentences start forming in your mind more quickly and naturally. The mental effort required decreases, and the process becomes almost automatic.
Strategy 5. Use quiet moments for English thinking. Strategy number 5 involves a psychological dimension that many English learners overlook: practicing English during calm, relaxed moments. This strategy is about changing the emotional association you have with thinking and speaking in English. Many learners experience anxiety when they need to speak English, especially with native speakers or in professional settings. Your palms might sweat, your heart might race, and your mind might go blank. This happens because your brain has associated English with stress and pressure. We need to change that association. Here's how. During quiet, peaceful moments of your day, perhaps early morning before the household wakes up, or late evening when you're winding down, spend time thinking in English. Reflect on your day using English thoughts. Think about your friends, family members, or colleagues and mentally describe them in English. Consider your plans for tomorrow and organize those thoughts in English. Why is this so effective? Because you're training your brain to associate English with calmness and relaxation rather than anxiety and pressure. When you practice English in a stress-free environment, you're building neural pathways that connect English with positive, relaxed feelings. Then, when you need to speak English in a real situation, your brain can access these calm, confident pathways rather than panic-based responses. Think of it this way. If you only practice English when you're stressed or nervous, your brain learns that English equals stress. But if you regularly practice English when you're calm and comfortable, your brain learns that English is a natural, relaxed activity. This emotional retraining is just as important as vocabulary building or grammar study. There's an excellent English expression that captures what we're aiming for: cool, calm, and collected. This means remaining composed and in control even in challenging situations. By practicing English during your peaceful moments, you're training yourself to be cool, calm, and collected when you need to use English in real-life scenarios. Strategy 6. Reduce dependency on translation apps. Our sixth strategy addresses a common crutch that many learners rely on too heavily: translation applications. Now, I want to be clear. Translation apps aren't inherently bad. They can be useful tools in certain situations. However, over-relying on them can seriously hinder your ability to think independently in English. When you reach for a translation app every time you can't find the perfect word, you're reinforcing the translation habit we're trying to break. Instead, I want you to challenge yourself to find alternative ways to express your ideas using the English you already know. Let me share a recent teaching moment that perfectly illustrates this principle. A few weeks ago, I was teaching a class when a new student joined our group. During our conversation, I could see she was searching for a specific word. As an experienced teacher who has worked with thousands of students, I've developed the ability to read these situations. I could tell she wanted me to provide the word she was looking for, but I also knew this was an important learning moment. Instead of jumping in to help her, I remained quiet and gave her an encouraging look that communicated, "I believe you can figure this out." She paused, thought for a moment, and then found a creative way to express her idea using different words she already knew. Her explanation wasn't the exact word she originally wanted, but it successfully communicated her meaning. That's when I smiled proudly, because she had just demonstrated real language mastery. This is the skill I want you to develop. When you can't remember a specific word, don't immediately reach for your translation app. Instead, think about other English words you know that could convey a similar meaning. Describe the concept in different terms. Use examples or comparisons. Get creative with the vocabulary you already possess. For instance, if you can't remember the word humid, you might say, "The air feels heavy and wet," or "There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere." If you can't recall frustrated, you could express, "I feel angry and impatient because something isn't working." These alternative expressions demonstrate that you're thinking in English and working within the language rather than constantly jumping back to your native language. After the conversation or situation is over, then you can look up the precise word you were searching for. This way, you're expanding your vocabulary while also building your ability to communicate effectively with the English you already have. Strategy 7. Use context to understand new words. Strategy 7 teaches you to become a language detective. When you encounter unfamiliar English words or expressions, instead of immediately reaching for a dictionary or translation, try to understand their meaning through context clues. Context clues are the surrounding words, sentences, and situations that provide hints about an unknown word's meaning. Native speakers use context clues constantly, often without even realizing it. This is how children learn language naturally, and it's how you can accelerate your English development. Here's how to practice this skill effectively. When you're reading an English text and come across an unfamiliar word, don't stop immediately. First, read the entire sentence and even the sentences before and after. Look for clues about the word's meaning. Is it describing something positive or negative? Is it an action, a feeling, or an object? What else in the text gives you hints? For example, imagine you encounter this sentence. The child was gleeful when she opened her birthday presents. Even if you don't know the word gleeful, the context tells you several things. It's describing how the child felt.
It happened when opening birthday presents, which is usually a happy occasion. From this context, you can reasonably guess that gleeful means something like happy or excited. This strategy serves two important purposes. First, it trains your brain to stay in English mode rather than constantly switching back to your native language. Second, it develops your ability to understand English even when you don't know every single word, a crucial real-world skill. Think about it this way. When you read in your native language, do you know every single word? Probably not, but you still understand the overall message because you use context. The same skill applies to English. By practicing context-based understanding, you're thinking more like a native speaker and less like a translator. Remember our earlier discussion about staying calm? This applies here too. When you see an unfamiliar word, don't panic or get frustrated. Stay cool, calm, and collected. Trust your ability to figure out the meaning from the context. This confidence and patience will serve you well in all your English interactions. Strategy 8. Maintain a regular English journal. Our eighth strategy involves one of the most powerful tools for language development: keeping a regular journal written in English. This practice combines multiple learning benefits into one simple daily habit. Journaling in English forces you to organize your thoughts, feelings, and experiences using English vocabulary and sentence structures. Unlike speaking, which happens in real time, writing gives you the opportunity to think carefully about how you want to express yourself. You can experiment with different sentence patterns, try out new vocabulary, and refine your expression until it feels right. You don't need to write lengthy essays or perfectly polished paragraphs. Even short journal entries of just a few sentences can be incredibly beneficial. The key is consistency. Writing a little bit every day is far more effective than writing a lot once a week. What should you write about? Anything that matters to you. Describe your day, what you did, where you went, who you talked to. Express your feelings about recent events. Share your thoughts about a book you're reading or a movie you watched. Write about your goals and dreams. Reflect on challenges you're facing. The content matters less than the practice of regularly organizing your thoughts in English. I personally maintain several journals for different purposes, some for business planning, others for personal reflection, and some for spiritual study. Writing has become an essential part of how I process my thoughts and experiences. This same practice can transform your English thinking abilities. When you write in your journal, don't worry excessively about perfect grammar or spelling. The primary goal is to practice thinking and expressing yourself in English. You can review your entries later and notice areas for improvement, but during the writing process itself, focus on fluency and self-expression rather than perfection. Over time, you'll notice something wonderful happening. The act of writing in English will become easier and more natural. Sentences will form more quickly in your mind. You will find yourself automatically using the vocabulary and expressions you've been learning. Your journal becomes a private space where you can experiment with English freely without fear of judgment or embarrassment.
Strategy number 9 encourages you to seek out real conversations with native English speakers. Now, before you feel anxious about this suggestion, let me reassure you about something important. Most native English speakers are friendly, patient, and happy to talk with English learners. Of course, like in any group, there are occasionally people who might be impatient or unkind, but these individuals are the exception, not the rule. The vast majority of native English speakers appreciate the effort you're making to learn their language and are willing to help you practice. Where can you find opportunities for these conversations? If you live in an area with English speakers, look for community events, language exchange meetups, or volunteer opportunities where you might interact with native speakers. Many cities have international clubs or conversation groups specifically designed for language practice. If you don't have access to native speakers in person, don't worry. The internet provides countless opportunities. Join English learning forums, participate in online discussion groups, engage with English-speaking communities on social media platforms, or find language exchange partners through dedicated websites and apps. The beauty of written online communication is that it removes some of the pressure of real-time speaking. You can take your time composing your thoughts, refer to resources if needed, and edit your messages before sending them. This provides a comfortable middle ground between solitary study and face-to-face conversation. Why is interaction with native speakers so valuable? Because it forces you to think quickly in English. When someone asks you a question, you need to understand it and formulate a response in real time. This rapid processing is exactly the skill we're developing, the ability to think directly in English without translation delays. Additionally, conversations with native speakers expose you to natural language use, including idioms, colloquial expressions, and cultural references
that you might not encounter in textbooks. You'll learn how English is actually spoken in everyday life, which is often quite different from formal written English. Start small if you feel nervous. Even brief interactions, a simple greeting, a quick question, a short comment, provide valuable practice. As your confidence grows, you can engage in longer, more complex conversations. Remember, every native English speaker was once a child learning the language for the first time. They understand that language learning is a process, and most are genuinely supportive of your efforts.
Strategy 10. Practice patience and persistence. Our final strategy might be the most important of all. Cultivate patience with yourself and maintain persistent effort over time. Learning to think in English is not an overnight transformation. It's a skill that develops gradually through consistent practice and dedication. It's natural to feel frustrated sometimes. You might have days when English feels impossibly difficult, when the words won't come, when you feel like you're not making progress. These feelings are completely normal and happen to every language learner. What distinguishes successful learners from those who give up is simple: persistence through the difficult moments. Your brain is an incredibly powerful and adaptable organ, but it needs time to restructure itself around a new language. When you're learning to think in English, you're literally creating new neural pathways in your brain. This process requires repetition, practice, and patience. You can't force it to happen faster than it naturally will, but you can ensure it happens by showing up consistently and practicing these strategies regularly. Think about other skills you've developed in your life. Maybe you learned to play a musical instrument, master a sport, or develop expertise in your professional field. None of these skills appeared instantly. They all required patient, persistent practice over weeks, months, or even years. Learning to think in English is no different. Here's something important to recognize. You're already amazing. The fact that you're learning another language puts you in a remarkable category of human beings. Many people never attempt to learn a second language. The effort you're investing in improving your English demonstrates intelligence, dedication, and courage. Give yourself credit for this achievement. As you practice these 10 strategies, be kind to yourself. Celebrate small victories. The day you successfully describe your commute in English, the moment you understand a context clue correctly, the conversation where English flows more naturally than before. These small wins accumulate
over time into major progress. There's a saying I want you to remember. Practice makes progress. Notice I didn't say practice makes perfect, because perfection isn't the goal. Progress is the goal. Every time you practice thinking in English, you're making progress, even if you can't see it immediately. Trust the process and keep moving forward.
Each of these strategies is powerful on its own, but when you combine them together, they create a comprehensive system for developing true English fluency. You don't need to implement all 10 strategies perfectly from day one. Start with one or two that feel most accessible to you. Then gradually incorporate others as they become natural habits. Remember, the journey to thinking in English is exactly that, a journey, not a destination. There will be challenges along the way, but there will also be exciting breakthroughs and moments of pride in your progress. Keep these strategies in your toolkit. Practice them regularly and watch as your English abilities transform. I believe in you completely. You have everything you need to succeed: intelligence, determination, and now effective strategies. The only question is, will you take action? Will you commit to practicing these techniques consistently? The choice is yours, and I know you'll make the right one. Thank you for joining me today. Keep practicing, stay confident, and most importantly, enjoy the incredible journey of learning English. Until our next lesson together, keep thinking in English and keep believing in yourself. You've got this.